and from Yahusha, who is the faithful witness, and the first begotten of the dead, and the prince of the kings of the earth, unto him that loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood, and hath made us kings and priests unto God and his Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen.
Long live the victory! Glory to the eternal kingdom! Long live the victory!
Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world, and they that dwell therein. For he hath founded it upon the seas, and established it upon the floods. Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord, or who shall stand in his holy place? He that hath clean hands and a pure heart, who hath not lifted up his soul unto vanity, nor sworn deceitfully. He shall receive the blessing from the Lord, and righteousness from the God of his salvation. This is the generation of them that seek him, that seek thy face, O Jacob. Selah. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be ye lift up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, even lift them up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory. Selah.
Can y'all hear me?
Come on, bro. You good?
All right. First and foremost, we like y'all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakadash. Hey, double on Pastor Edis GMS. And salutations to your brother, push word of truth, and sincere four corners. We GMS Mississippi Camp. I'm gonna let the brothers take over.
Come on. So we got a lesson getting into the decline and fall of America. Babylon the Great. The brother, found a damn good video, that compares, the fall of these other Edomite empires, okay, and how America is following the same pattern, and without a doubt, this is Esau being too ambitious. One thing that you realize when you look at these Edomite empire is that they all suffer for overreach and too much ambition, and that's the spirit of Esau. He always is going to overspend, and he always going to overextend himself militarily. It doesn't matter how strong he is militarily, he's going to overextend. It doesn't matter how wealthy he is as a kingdom, he's going to overspend. So every empire goes through the same pattern of conquering, okay, their golden age, okay, then it declines. And they follow the same exact patterns. And guess what? It's the same people. That's the flaw that the Most High got built into Esau, okay, is that he's too goddamn ambitious, man. He's proud and he's too ambitious. And every time, that's the recipe for the fall of his empire, man. So it's no different today. America is just the latest example, okay? So we're going to get some precepts, and then we got a video that we're going to go into, Lord will, you brothers, all right? And you few sisters are edified, but you got it, bro.
This is the book of 2 Daniel, chapter 2, starting at verse 39. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom, brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth.
And this is referring to America, aka Babylon the Great, because although Rome ruled a lot of
that's talking about bro, that's talking about the Medo-Persian Empire, and then you will have the Greeks when you go to Daniel 2:39.
Okay, so
yeah, because he's telling Nebuchadnezzar that after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and that's speaking of the Medo-Persian Empire, and then another kingdom of brass that's speaking of the Greeks. So he's breaking down that statue.
The statue. Slaki.
Oh, you got it, bro.
Right, because those are those particular empires that had fallen, what Daniel was speaking on, which started with the Babylonians, the Medo-Persians, the Grecians, and then the Romans coming to power, which would be that fourth kingdom, will be Rome. So you got it, bro.
Verse 40. It says, and the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdue all things, and as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise.
Because Rome had a very powerful military. That's why they was able to conquer and seize so much land and have so many provinces, because of their military might. But that was also a part of their, downfall by having their military spread it so thin. You got it, bro. You got it, bro.
Verse 41, it says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay.
And this is the revised Roman Empire, where they're going to be strong. They still got a military might, but they're still going to be divided when it comes to their allies, their left and right, So as strong as it seems it's going to be, it's not going to be as strong as it could be because it's divided. So that, like that iron and clay, it doesn't bond well. So it's always going to be brittle, if you will. It would never just be a stable, solid concrete foundation. You got it, bro.
Verse 42, it says, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave to they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay.
So it's not going to stand. It's destined to fall. This rulership, this revised Roman Empire, it's destined to go down. It's not going to ever be a sound, one-minded, mindset, if you will. They're going to always have, different mindsets. They're always going to have allies, or other nations think they're going to be the next power. But at the end of the day, this is the last hurrah for these, I guess you could say, supreme empires from the beginning, from the Babylonians until now. Because the scripture doesn't speak on China being the next superpower. The scriptures don't speak on Russia being the next superpower. They do have their roles to play in prophecy, according to Ezekiel 38th chapter, but their role is going to be to, help destroy America, increase that tension between the small heads, America and Russia, China, and all these different allies when they start splitting up and taking sides. So this place is not going to stand, man. That's all I get, bro. I don't want to expound on it.
You muted, bro.
Y'all can hear me?
Now I'll talk to Quan Ayash.
Yeah, so just to expound
Okay.
on those 10 toes, going into, the NATO and the EU, and America, that make up those 10 toes. All right. And like the brother said, they partly strong, partly clay, because, you have inferior, nations in the EU, and you have nations that are more superior. And the main strength of this American NATO EU alliance is the American military might and the American economy, and you have a few of those EU nations that have decent economies, and some of them have decent militaries, that help America when America go on, these wars, certain, all right, allies, European allies like the British, the French, mainly the British and the French are the main two that go on America on these missions, but for the most part, a lot of these EU militaries are, weak, their economies are, small compared to these super economies of America, the British, France, you see. So just like the brother went into, and then they disagree when it comes to certain geopolitics, their stance on Russia, that's causing a lot of division amongst these EU nations, their stance with Russia. Some nations, EU nations, are pro-Russian, some are against, but the prophecy is playing out exactly to a T, and it's going to lead to these nations going to war. And America, has emerged, the superpower out of this new Roman beast system, and we're going to get there in the book of Daniel, get that Daniel 7:7.
This is the book of Daniel, chapter 7, starting at verse 7. It says, "After this, I saw the night's vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue of the feet of it. It was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 toes."
10 horns.
10 horns. Salaka, 10 horns.
So this is that same fourth beast, from Daniel the 2nd chapter, which is pagan Rome, and it had those 10 horns with those 10 vassal states, those 10, kingdoms, those 10 prominent families, that was allied and vassals under the pagan Roman Empire. All right, and it's been revived today, that deadly wound, because this fourth beast, it's the head that took that deadly wound in Revelation. Okay, but that deadly wound was healed, and that's what you have. All right, America, NATO, and the EU, it makes up that deadly wound that was healed. Okay, so that beast, that fourth beast, has been revived back in the earth, and it's the 10 toes of that statue in Daniel the 2nd chapter. Okay, so the scriptures deal a lot with certain empires, because these empires play a part in these end time prophecies, man. Especially Rome being revived, and you will have out of the new Roman Empire, America will emerge to be the powerhouse of this new Rome. Okay, so you got verse 8, bro.
Come verse 8. It says, "I considered the horns and say again."
I ain't saying that.
Okay, come. This is Daniel chapter 7, verse 8. It says, "I considered the horns, and beheld, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things.
Yeah, so when you go into this prophecy, all right, it says, I considered the horns and beheld there came up another little horn. So that's America, you see, because you're not going to find the word America in the Bible, okay? But within prophecy, America comes up often, okay? And in Daniel 7 to 8 chapter, you have America, Daniel chapter 7, verse 8, you have America known as his little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, which are the French, the British, all right, and the Spanish. And this documentary, this quick documentary, is going to go into the Spanish and the British. Okay, then it goes into Russia, which Russia is not a part of this beast system. Okay, and the documentary is going to go into Russia, but it's going to go into 2 of these 3 horns that was plucked up. Okay, because these other Edomite empires, the British, the French, all right, and the Spanish, these are all Edomite empires. Okay, and they all conquered and colonized in the earth. That goes into Daniel when it says, it should mingle themselves amongst the seed of men. Okay, because you look at the earth, it's been colonized by Europeans. That's why you have the British, French Isles. Okay, that's why you have Spanish, all right, speaking people in the Western Hemisphere, because of the colonialism, all right, of these European nations. Okay, that's why you got a French influence, okay, in Louisiana, okay, Haiti. You see, you got a British influence in Jamaica. So when you go into these 3 horns, plus America, these are these European nations that have colonized, the world more than anybody. The British have a big influence in India, even to this day. They had a big influence in China. French got a big influence in Africa. America and British, South Africa, that's where you get Afrikaners, the niggas like Elon Musk, them Edomites like that came from the British Empire. Okay, so when you look at, the world, it has been colonized by mainly these European governments, which America, being a little horn, that overcame those other 3 European governments to dominate the world, like a nation has never done before. Okay, it says, and behold, in the horn were eyes like the eyes of men, and a mouth speaking great things, because this is the place of great rebellion against Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai. The culture of America speaks against, okay, the righteousness of the scriptures, man. But now we're at the time where even this little horn is getting ready to fall, and that's the whole point of this lesson. Why you Americans are celebrating 250? Well, guess what? Your days are numbered. You might not make it to 251 the way things are going. Okay, so yeah, we can cue up that video, and then whatever precept brother got out of the video, just let him ride.
There's a pattern in history that has destroyed 3 global superpowers in the last 500 years. And right now in 2025, the United States is following that exact same pattern stage by stage, decision by decision, almost like we're reading from the same script that led to catastrophe every single time before. In 1590, Spain was the richest empire on earth. They controlled half the world's gold and silver. Their military dominated Europe. Their currency was accepted everywhere. Within 18
on the full screen, bro.
Great power that never recovered.
Salakia.
Oh, you good.
suffered. In 1914, Britain ruled the largest empire in human history. The sun never set on British territory. The pound sterling was the global reserve currency. Within 40 years, the empire was gone. The currency collapsed. They became America's junior partner. In 1991, the Soviet Union was the other superpower. Nuclear weapons, global influence, satellites spanning the globe. It ceased to exist in 900 days, not from war, but from economic implosion. 3 times, 3 superpowers, 3 complete collapses, all following the exact same sequence. And here's what should terrify you. The United States has already completed 5 of the 7 stages. We're not approaching the pattern, we're deep inside it. This is the story of how empires die, why they always think they're different, and why the math says that the United States is next. And it's happening faster than anyone wants to admit. Before we go through the pattern, you need to understand what imperial collapse actually looks like. Not in textbooks, but in practice. What it means when a superpower dies. Imperial collapse doesn't start with invasion or military defeat. It starts with economic exhaustion. The empire extends beyond its ability to maintain itself. Military bases in 150 countries, wars on multiple fronts, promises it cannot keep, debts it cannot repay. At first, the decline is invisible. The currency still works, the military still wins battles, the government still makes promises. But beneath the surface, the foundation is cracking, resources are misallocated, productive capacity shrinks, the best and brightest people leave, and then comes the acceleration. They start hedging. Enemies test boundaries. Trade partners seek alternatives. The reserve currency status erodes. And suddenly the advantages that made you powerful become vulnerabilities. Your currency, once demanded by everyone, comes flooding back home. Your military spread across the world becomes unsustainable. Your promises, once guaranteed by strength, become empty words. That's not theoretical. That's what happened to Spain, Britain, and the Soviet Union. And it happened because they made exactly the same decisions that America is making now. They believed their power was permanent. They overextended militarily. They debased their currency. And they refused to accept reality until collapse was already underway. Let's look at how it actually happened 3 times the exact same way. Let's start with the first global empire, Spain, from the 1500s to the 1600s. After Columbus discovered the Americas in 1492, Spain became the first true world power. They conquered the Aztec and Inca empires, seized control of the richest gold and silver mines ever discovered. By 1550, Spanish ships were bringing home 200 tons of silver per year. By 1600, over 400 tons annually. Spain controlled the money supply of Europe. The Spanish reals was the global reserve currency. Everyone wanted Spanish silver. And this is where the pattern begins, with a country that controls the money of the world and believes that it makes them invincible. King Philip II, who ruled from 1556 to 1598, had more money than any monarch in history, and he spent it on empire. Stage 1 is military overextension. Spain fought wars everywhere, simultaneously against the Ottoman Empire in the Mediterranean, against France and Italy, against Protestant rebels in the Netherlands, against England's navy, wars in the Philippines and wars in the Americas. By 1580, Spain had military commitments on 4 continents. The cost was staggering. Half of Spain's revenue went to the military, and still, it wasn't enough. Stage 2 is currency debasement. The Spanish crown couldn't pay its bills with taxes alone, so they did what every failing empire does. They debased the currency. They started mixing copper into silver coins. A coin that was supposed to be pure silver became 50% copper, then 75% copper. The face value stayed the same, but the real value plummeted. By 1600, Spanish silver coins contained barely any silver. Merchants stopped accepting them at face value. Inflation exploded. Stage 3 is debt spiral. Spain borrowed constantly from Italian bankers, from German bankers, from anyone who would lend. By 1557, less than 20 years into Philip's reign, Spain declared bankruptcy. They defaulted on their debts, restructured, and kept borrowing. They declared bankruptcy again in 1560, again in 1575, again in 1596. 4 bankruptcies in 40 years. Each time they promised reforms. Each time they went right back to borrowing and spending. Stage 4 is loss of productive capacity. Here's what people don't understand about Spain's collapse. They had all the gold and silver in the world, and it destroyed them, because when you have unlimited money, you stop producing. Why grow food when you can import it? Why build ships when you can buy them? Why innovate when you can just spend? Spanish nobility considered every work beneath them. As a result, manufacturing declined and agriculture stagnated. All the wealth flowed to importing goods from other countries. The gold and silver that came from the Americas went straight back out to pay for French wine, Italian silk, and Dutch goods. Spain became a conduit. Wealth flowed through them, but none of it stayed. By 1600, Spain was producing almost nothing. They were entirely dependent on imports, entirely dependent on silver to pay for everything. And when the silver mines began to deplete, when production dropped, the entire system collapsed. Stage 5 is social decay. With a failing economy, crime exploded. Beggars filled the streets of Madrid. Productive citizens immigrated. The best minds left for France, England, and the Netherlands. The countries that were building, creating, and growing. Spain was left with bureaucrats, soldiers, and priests. No one was creating wealth. Everyone was consuming it. By 1640, Spain lost Portugal. By 1650, they lost the Netherlands, their richest territory. And by 1700, the Spanish Empire was a shell, still large on paper, but economically dead. They went from the world's superpower to a secondary power in less than a century, and they never recovered. Spain today is a regional European country, pleasant, cultured, but irrelevant on the world stage. The descendants of the conquistadors are a tourist destination. That's what imperial collapse looks like. Let's jump forward 300 years. It's Britain in the 1900s, the empire where the sun never set. At its peak, Britain controlled 25% of the world's land surface, 400 million subjects. The pound sterling was the global reserve currency. Every major trade contract was denominated in pounds. Every central bank held British bonds. London was the financial centre of the world. And just like Spain 300 years earlier, they believed it was permanent, but they were already following the pattern. Stage 1, the military overextension. By 1900, Britain had military commitments everywhere. India, Africa, the Middle East, China, the Pacific, the Caribbean. They had to defend territory on 6 continents. The cost was enormous. And when World War I started in 1914, Britain faced a choice: stay neutral and let Europe destroy itself, or jump in and bankrupt the empire to win. They chose to fight. World War I cost Britain over $40 billion. That's $1 trillion in today's money. They borrowed from everyone, mostly from the United States. By 1918, Britain owed America billions. The creditor had become the debtor, but they'd won the war. They kept the empire. They thought they could rebuild, but they were wrong. Stage 2, currency debasement. The pound sterling was supposed to be backed by gold, but the war had drained Britain's gold reserves. They'd shipped gold to America to pay for weapons, food, supplies. By 1920, Britain's gold reserves were half what they had been in 1914, but they tried to maintain the pound's value anyway. They went back on the gold standard at the pre-war rate in 1925. The problem was that the pound was overvalued. British exports became too expensive. Manufacturing declined, unemployment rose, and the government had to keep interest rates high to defend the currency. This destroyed the domestic economy. By 1931, they couldn't hold it anymore. Britain abandoned the gold standard. The pound lost 25% of its value overnight. Stage 3, the debt spiral. Britain never recovered from World War I debt, and then World War II started. Another $120 billion in costs, more borrowing from America. By 1945, Britain owed the United States and Canada over $30 billion more than Britain's entire GDP. The war was won, but the empire was finished. They couldn't defend it anymore, couldn't afford it, couldn't maintain it. Stage 4, the loss of empire. In 1947, Britain gave up India, the crown jewel, and the source of wealth for 200 years gone. Over the next 20 years, they lost everything: Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and the Caribbean. By 1970, the British Empire existed only in history books. Stage 5, the currency collapse. The pound kept falling. In 1940, £1 equaled $403. By 1950, $280. By 1970, $240. By 1980, £2 equaled 30, and today it's fallen to £27. The global reserve currency became a regional currency. Britain tried to maintain permanent seat on the UN Security Council, nuclear weapons, special relationship with America. But everyone knew the truth. They were a former power, a museum of what used to be great. The empire was gone and it never came back. Now let's look at the most recent example, the Soviet Union, which ruled from 1945 to 1991. After World War II, the USSR emerged as a superpower. They had nuclear weapons, massive military control over Eastern Europe, satellites in space, and they believed they were the future, and communism would bury capitalism and the Soviet model would dominate. For 45 years, they competed with America, matched USA militarily, built more tanks, more missiles, more troops, but beneath the surface, the economy was dying. Stage 1, the military overextension. The Soviet Union spent 15 to 20% of GDP on the military. That's triple of what America spent. They had to match American technology, American reach, American alliances. They were in Afghanistan, propping up Cuba, supporting Syria, Vietnam, North Korea, Angola, Ethiopia. Everywhere America had influence, they had to counter. The cost was unsustainable. Stage 2, the economic stagnation. The Soviet economy stopped growing in the 1970s. Oil revenue kept them afloat, but nothing else worked. Factories produced junk, farms failed, technology fell decades behind. By the 1980s, the Soviet Union was importing grain. A country with some of the best farmland on earth couldn't feed itself. Why? Because central planning doesn't work, because innovation dies under control, because no one produces when there's no incentive. Stage 3, currency collapse. The ruble was never a real currency. It couldn't be exchanged internationally. Even Soviet citizens didn't trust it. They used dollars when they could get them. The government had to buy foreign goods with gold and oil because nobody wanted rubles. By 1985, oil prices dropped. Soviet gold reserves were depleting. They were running out of real money. Stage 4, the loss of empire. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. Eastern Europe left. Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Romania, East Germany, all gone in a year. The satellites that gave the Soviet Union strategic depth vanished. The Soviet government couldn't stop it, and they were broke. Stage 5, the complete collapse. On December 26, 1991, the Soviet Union ceased to exist. 900 days from Berlin Wall to complete dissolution. No war, no invasion, just economic implosion. The military couldn't be paid. The government couldn't function. The ruble became worthless. A superpower with 30,000 nuclear weapons collapsed from internal economic failure. The pattern played out again: overextension, currency failure, debt, loss of empire, and finally collapse. And here's what should keep you awake at night. The United States is following the exact same pattern stage by stage. Let me show you how. Stage 1, the military overextension. The United States has over 750 military bases in 80 countries. It has troops in 150 countries. It is committed to defending Europe through NATO, defending Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, fighting in the Middle East, countering China, countering Russia. Its military budget is $850 billion annually, more than the next 10 countries combined. But the equipment is aging, recruitment is down, and USA has commitments it cannot fulfill. If China invades Taiwan, if Russia pushes into NATO territory, if Iran closes the Persian Gulf, it cannot respond to all of it simultaneously. USA is overextended, just like Spain, just like Britain, just like the USSR. Stage 2, the currency debasement. In 1971, Nixon closed the gold window. The dollar became pure fiat currency. Since 2000, the money supply has increased 400%. Since 2020, USA has printed over $6 trillion. The dollar has lost 98% of its purchasing power since 1971.
Websites your competitors don't want you to know, part 2. All you do is go to this website, and it lets you find out exactly.
USA is not mixing copper into silver coins. It is just printing unlimited paper. The mechanism is different, but the result is the same. Stage 3, the debt spiral. The United States owes $36 trillion, and that's 120% of the GDP. Interest payments alone are approaching $1 trillion per year. It is spending more on interest than on defense. The economy runs deficits every year. $1.8 trillion in 2024 in a growing economy. During peacetime, it borrows to pay interest on previous borrowing. That's the definition of a debt spiral. Spain defaulted 4 times. Britain borrowed until it collapsed. The USSR ran out of money. America is on the same path. Stage 4, the loss of productive capacity. America doesn't make things anymore. It designs, finances, and consumes, but don't produce. Its manufacturing base has been gutted, shipped to China, Mexico, and Vietnam. USA imports $800 billion more than it exports annually. It is dependent on foreign supply chains for everything: medicine, electronics, steel, even military components. Just like Spain became dependent on imports while the silver flowed out, USA is dependent on imports while dollars flow out. Stage 5, social decay. Trust in institutions is at all-time lows. Crime is rising. Homelessness is exploding. Drug overdoses kills 100,000 Americans annually. The best and brightest are leaving or checking out. Fertility rates are collapsing. Political dysfunction is total. We Americans can't agree on anything, can't fix anything, can't build anything. The signs of decay are everywhere, but everyone pretends it's fine. It's not fine. We're on stage 5 of 7. The Soviet Union made it to stage 5 before complete collapse. So did Britain. Spain lasted longer, but the pattern is the same. We're not at the end yet, but we're deep into the sequence. Stage 6 is loss of reserve currency status. That's when allies start diversifying, when trade moves to other currencies, when the dollar comes flooding back home because no one needs to hold it anymore, and we're seeing early signs. BRICS nations are developing alternatives. Central banks are buying gold. China and Russia are trading in yuan and rubles. Saudi Arabia is accepting yuan for oil. The cracks are forming. Stage 7 is total collapse, not gradual decline, sudden implosion. The Soviet Union went from superpower to non-existent in 900 days. Britain lost the empire in 20 years. Spain took longer, but the result was the same. When the reserve currency fails, when the debt becomes impossible, when the military can't be funded, it doesn't decline gracefully. It collapses quickly, brutally. And everyone who thought it couldn't happen here learns the same lesson every empire learns. It can, and it does. 3 empires followed this pattern: Spain, Britain, the USSR. Each believed they were exceptional. Each believed they were different. Each believed the rules didn't apply to them, or they were wrong every single time. The pattern doesn't care about exceptionalism. The pattern is mathematical. You cannot spend beyond your means forever. You cannot maintain empire without productive capacity. You cannot debase your currency without consequences. You cannot avoid stage 6 and 7 once you've completed 1 through 5. The sequence is locked in. The only question is timing. Maybe America has 10 years, maybe 5, or maybe less. But the pattern says that the collapse is coming. And when it comes, it won't be slow. It'll be sudden.
And there we go, man. And we know, according to prophecy, that America, is going to be completely destroyed. You see, they don't understand the nuclear destruction. See, that's where prophecy comes in and brings a whole nother element to the game. Now we see, the things happening, with the America following the same pattern as these other empires. Okay. But see, the elites think they're finna revamp and do a whole global kingdom. But that's when prophecy comes in and destroys America and takes the elite captive, man. These elites go into captivity. So we're going to touch in from the prophecy aspect what happens to America, but there's no doubt about it that America is in late stage collapse. Okay, and America is the end of Edomite rulership in the earth. Esau had the elites have ambition to go beyond America and establish a global technocracy, but no, America is the end of the road for Edomite supremacy. Okay, for the rulership of the heathens. You see. Y'all brothers had something? Any brother had precept?
Come, Baba Kashal.
You got a lot then, Yum Ya. You get yours out there.
Come.
Can give me Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9. It said the thing that had been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun.
Kind. And as that video illustrated, perfectly, that America's showing the same symptoms that these other kingdoms did. The same symptoms of a failing kingdom. There's no new thing under the sun. How they feel is how America's gonna fall, but America's gonna have the biggest fall ever, because America's fall is the end of an era. So it has to be dramatic. It's gonna be like no other. That's why this man gonna go out. He's gonna go out swinging, but he's gonna go out sad. There's no new thing under the sun. And what the scripture says, scriptures is written for our learning. And we can all go through scriptures, history or scripture, special scriptures, and see how these other kingdoms fail. Yahweh Shai is the only one who is prophesied to have an eternal kingdom. A kingdom without end. But these other places, because they have an end, that means what? They have an expiration date. You know, Jacob's kingdom, that's gonna be a kingdom without one, an expiration date. But because these kingdoms have an expiration date, they gonna show them signs of death, of decay. You know, that's all I had.
So you got him, yeah.
Yeah, Con, just to back the brother up because and that was one of the scriptures I wanted to get, but hey, so the decline of the brother going into like it's showing the signs of a decline because it's following other kingdoms out, you know. So I think it was Psalms 49, Baba Kashad, Psalms 49 and 11. 49 and 11. And before you get that, Baba Kashad, this I wanted to I got this in the Google. It says I asked it, who all is America in debt with? So America is in debt with it says 39 trillion. It's in debt with Japan, roughly holding 1.2 trillion, the United Kingdom about 900 billion, and China is the third largest, holding about 700 billion. So yeah, just like the Spaniards, you know, or you know, the other kingdoms before it, its national debt is going to climb and climb, and the same thing what they're doing is even like with the Spaniards, the money that was really no money, that what was that ruble. So America is
Russia.
Russia. Yeah, the USSR.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like, America just printing money out of thin air. That fiat currency, going back into what they say, let it be. Yeah, they say let it be. You know, so yeah, so they just printing down money out of thin air, but and then just continuing to magnify the deficit. You know, and it then still going into that consumerism nation. Revelation 18 goes into how how America basically this consumerism nation, and these nations standing far off. When America get its judgment, this place right here was making these nations rich, you know, because it was pouring out the currency, you know, until it wasn't a currency to be backed, you know, or it didn't have any strength behind it. So yeah, bro. So yeah, Baba Kashai, you get that Psalms 149. 49 and 11.
You said 149 or 49?
No, you got it. 49 and 11.
I got this real quick for you too. Just a definition for you. It says the fiat currency is a government issued money that is not backed by a physical commodity like gold or silver. Its value only comes from public trust.
Yeah, because even now, copper still right now, if you just hear, copper holds some type of value, but shit, the America currency is not holding any. They just printing out of thin air, you know. So they just basically they went over and beyond. So yeah, so when this shit crashes, everything is just gonna be what scripture say how they gonna be throwing that money in the streets, you know. But you got it, bro.
You said 49 and 11.
Come on.
This is Psalm chapter 49, verse 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names.
Yeah, so this is the thoughts also, you know, the least. Like they think they finna just be a total power on the earth from generation to generation, you know. But they follow the same pattern like the brother Halak just got. There's no new thing under the sun. What was, it shall be. So they only following the pattern out. And then but not to mention, but to mention Baba Kashai, go back to Psalms, not Psalms, but Daniel 2 and get 44, Baba Kashai. See, because they not count on Yahweh Shai coming. They thinking they just got it. And this just what's gonna be. not understanding that, hey, the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, who set these devils up.
You said 44?
Con.
This is Daniel chapter 2, verse 44. And in the day and in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall never be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
Yeah, so all these nations, even these kingdoms that were spoken of, these fourth beasts, these kingdoms that Yahweh Shem Yahushua Daniel seen, that the Yahweh Shem Yahushua set up, hey, they finna be broken down, and they're finna be taken over by the King of Kings, Lords of Lords, man. So and then it's gonna be perfected to where you're not gonna have our kingdom going to debt to under Yahweh Shah, going to debt to other nations, man. Because it's gonna be a kingdom without end, never destroyed, never left to another, never even set up to even follow the ways of these kingdoms before it. Yeah, that was the point, bro. That was it on that.
Any other brother had something?
I got that Ezekiel.
Yeah.
Go ahead, bro.
Can I get Psalm 75 verses 4 down to verse 8 in the NIV? Baba Kasha.
This is Psalm. You said Psalm 75,
verses 4 down to 8.
4 down to 8. Okay, come. This is Psalm chapter 75, starting at verse 4, NIV. It says, "To the ignorant I say, boast no more, and to the wicked, do not lift up your horns. Do not lift up your horns against heaven, and do not speak so defiantly. No one from the east or the west or from the desert can exalt themselves. It is the Most High who judges. He brings one down and exalts another. And the hand of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, is a cup full of foaming wine mixed with spices. He pours it out, and all the wicked of the earth drink it down to its very dregs."
God. So, like the narrator has said, man, they thought that their situation of having substantial amounts of money was never going to end. But they got to the point where they started going in debt. Society started crashing. The economy just wasn't no good. And America, like you're saying, is following that same pattern. And we got to remember that, the Lord is not happy with these particular countries, man, because they all had their investments in the transatlantic slave trade, man, when it comes to, the British, the Spanish, the French, so they are enemies of the Lord, man. And though the Lord allowed them to have a run, he was never going to allow them to continue on, man. Just like America has had their run. They 250 in. But we're seeing the collapse and the decay of this society, man, economically, financially, socially. Everything is in a downhill spiral. They hit their peak, but now they're going down, man. And they're going down a lot faster than they raised up. And it's all through the spirit and the power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, like the brother brought out earlier, man. What was is going to be, man. Nothing is new under the sun. So this is just a continuing cycle showing that the Lord is not dealing with these other nations, but to a certain degree. And that's going to be to prove his point, man. Like it says, he can set up one and bring that down and set up another, man. So this is all the Lord's will to orchestrate, to have these particular empires to be in a position of power at one point, just to bring them down. And just keep going down and trickling down till we got to the point of the iron and Martyr clay. And now we're watching America unravel in this declining society, man. And and when you got the wicked ruling, it's gonna be a terrible management of the world of society, man. So it's bound to go down. But this is prophecy in this prophecy is being fulfilled. That's it, bro.
Bro. Tazwan, you had something?
Yeah, brother. Let me get Psalms 2, 1 down to 4. Because you know how the other nations think other nations think they soon Esau go down, soon America go down. They really think they got next. But they really don't.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 2, starting at verse 1. It says, why do the heathen rage? And the people
It's like bro, I want an NLT. You don't mind?
Come. No problem, bro. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 2, starting at verse 1, NLT. Why are the nations so angry? Why do they waste their time with futile plans? The kings of the earth prepare for battle. The rulers plot together against the Lord Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. It's like against the Lord Yahweh and against his anointed ones.
See, and that's what they think. They really think so America go down, China think they got next, Russia think they got next, but they don't understand that when Lord sent his son back, it's Yahweh Shai time to rule, not theirs time. All right. But in that they plans they got, they think they're gonna take over next, but they far wrong. It's not gonna happen. But go ahead, bro.
Verse 3. Let us break their chains, they cry, and free ourselves from the slavery of the Most High. But the one who rules in heaven laughs. The Lord Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai scoffs at them.
See, like I said, look, it gonna be because they like I said, soon America go down. They gonna be, oh yeah, we got this. It's all ours now. They're not ruling no more. But they really think in their minds that they got next and they gonna be able to run the world. But it's far from the truth, man. The Lord just Lord gonna what the scripture Lord really don't have basically come out like in like they think I don't know the word I'm trying to use. But they ain't gonna rule. But that's what all I'm trying to say. All right, that's all I got, brothers.
Bro, you can end it with whatever you got now.
Cause Esau, I got 2. Well, I'll go do the other one because y'all already brought that one up. Esau really thinks that he's gonna buy or build his way into, this digital empire that he wants. He really thinks that he's going to be able to again buy or build his way into the blessing, But what he has to understand is none of it is all worthless. None of it is going to save him when it comes to the wrath of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. And it's the Psalms, it's Proverbs 11:4. It says, riches profit not in the day of wrath. So even though, this kingdom is crumbling down, the money is pointless and everything, but Esau still thinks that he can continue to throw things over here and throw this together and throw up this center and throw money at this. And he think if he could just get close enough, he could avoid his judgment, but it's not going to profit him at all when it comes to the judgment and the day of wrath. When it comes to Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai, it said, but righteousness is delivered from the dead. And in these days here, the only righteous that are going to be delivered when it comes to that salvation is going to be the 1/3 of the nation of Israel. So again, Esau, whatever he think he could throw together that's gonna keep America going, or that's gonna, turn America into this new system and all of that is worthless. It's all pointless because, and at the end of the day, the prophecy is gonna play out. That's why ultimately America is going down the way it's going. History proves it, but ultimately the scriptures And the prophecy has already told us what's going to happen. History just backs up what the Lord already done told us. That's it, bro.
Bro. You know, and we here. You know, we know the Lord, you know, set Esau up for failure. Matter of fact, let's end on that. Psalms 73 and 20. You know, because Esau was set up for failure. Every empire that Esau has had it always imploded on itself. You know, and America and this New World Order agenda is getting ready to implode on itself, man. And we're in the final stages of it, man. It's a beautiful thing, a beautiful time to be alive as a believer. So yeah, let's get that Psalm 73 and 20. And we end, bro.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 73, verse 20. It says, as a dream.
Start at 18. Start at 18.
This is Psalm chapter 73, starting at verse 18. Surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou castedest them down into destruction.
They're set in slippery places. So if you set someone in a slippery place, okay, well, you intend for them to fall. So Esau, his foundation, trying to be the Most High, well, that's the slippery place that the Lord set him on. He put him out on the quest. He put Esau on the quest to try to be the Most High with technology. That's a slippery place. Okay, Esau was always bound to fail from the beginning. You know, you got it, bro.
Verse 19. How are they brought into destruction, as in a moment they are utterly consumed with terrors?
Yeah, as in the moment. Because when this war gets out of control and it goes nuclear, America gonna be destroyed in the hour. The elite's gonna be tucked off in these bunkers. Okay, the earth gonna rail to and fro, and all this new world order shit gonna be demolished, man. Okay, it's gonna be wiped off the table, and all these other nations like Elder Tazawon was going into that think they got next, they gonna be turned to powder. You see, so every plan that these heathens are making, from the elites to these other nations under the elites that got these ambition, well, it's going to be destroyed in this nuclear war in the coming of Yahushua. And it's going to be in the moment. Okay? Yahushua going to make a quick work of these nations. Ain't going to be no back and forth like on Star Wars. Okay? It's going to be all offense, and it's going to be quick. You know? You got it, bro.
It's verse 20. It says, as a dream when one awaketh, so, O Lord, Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image.
Yeah, thou shalt despise their image, and the Lord despises this image, this new world order that the devil, all right, is trying to put together, which is nothing but pure rebellion against the Most High. You know, so the Lord is going to what? Confound this image. You're going to send Yahushai to break up the statue, man. You know, and set up a righteous kingdom, or Yahushua establishes the throne of David in the earth, man. So this is the end game to everything that we're seeing playing out. See, this time another nation doesn't come to power. No, this time the time of the heathen is done. You see, the time of them having empires in the earth, this is it. America gonna be the last fumble that you heathens get. You heathens are never gonna recover from this, all right, destruction. Okay, and return the empire. No, you're gonna be forever subjugated to the righteous empire of Israel. Okay, headed by Yahushua. You know, so yeah, we end it there. You know, Lord will. You know, you brothers, all right, and you few sisters were edified. Once again, I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahushua B'Hashem Makakadash. And double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the whole collective. Shalom.
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 Shalom.